this is what we're trying to make from these. That isn't the best joint, never mind. This is what we're trying to make, and it's the joints that we're making are these so-called finger joints. The reason for that is it's about the only way one can join pieces of wood that will really stand up to any kind of wear, because there's an enormous surface for glue in here. I mean, that surface for glue going back and forth becomes very large given the size of the wood. Finger jointing this stuff is a fine art because it's all sorts of odd shapes. But what it gives us in the end, I mean, the ability, let me turn this around, the ability in finger jointing this thing is to take shorter pieces out of the board, so we don't have to have an enormously wide board. This is the one we just made. The next one, and this is the one that always broke off, and we've got the grain running this way rather than sideways as it was at Laconia, so these won't break off the way the other ones did. But anyway, the next thing I do is finger joint this in preparation for being joined to one of these guys.
So this is in 3 sections. That's what this piece is here?
Yes, this is in one. This is one piece.
Yeah, it's a just a different.
Yep. Yep. So this is a. Let me go. Sit right. Sit here. So this will be a blank for making these. Mm-hmm. And we're just making it in 3 pieces because it's much more economical of wood, and at the end it's a much better idea, as I've said, have the grain running this way rather than sideways, because this won't snap off the way these did, almost no matter what happens to it.
So these are on the exterior of the Narcissus?
These are on the exterior. And
they hold the big, large stained glass eyebrows in their sash?
Let me grab my clipboard. These are these guys going up over the top of these, the stained glass windows. We call them the eyebrows, I guess, which is a nice thing to call them. But they're just the frames for these. And you wouldn't think that one small part of the car could be so much work. But it is. And that's life. I mean, Laconia was cranking these out, so they had it all done.
So then you have this piece, and ultimately you have to score, I don't know what the proper term is, but you have to do several passes in different ways to make it all not only fit on the car, but also to accept, I guess, the sash from the stained glass window.
Yep, and all of these operations happen on the shaper. I mean, the first thing we'll do is shape it to the outline. This has had its outline shaped, but nothing else done. But there's a little decorative groove that they decided to put along here. There's a piece that has to be cut out inside, which accepts the window frame. That's where the actual mahogany frame that holds the glass goes inside the car. There's this groove on the top, which I believe the siding goes in.
Yeah.
And then it goes up here, and I believe the edge of the siding rests on this little ledge too, but I don't know that.
Yeah, there's like a faceboard along the side of the car toward the roof line.
That sits over that, yep.
Yeah. So it locks it in place.
So there are, a heap of little different grooves here, and each one of those grooves is a separate pass over the shaper. So what I try to do, or am going to try to do, is I'm going to try to get these things so that I have a bunch of them done, because each of these grooves is a different shaper setup. I have to change the knives on the shaper to cut it.
And then what did you were involved in removing these from the actual car itself, from the Narcissus. What did that entail?
That entailed, there was a big rusty screw in where this hole is now, and the method that actually Donald developed was to get a hole saw big enough to go right around the screw, and we cut out. A hole saw is just a saw that it's a circular saw that generally has a bit in the middle but we took the bit out of the middle so it would just cut this round hole, and we cut out, if you can imagine, a round plug of wood around that rusty screw. Then we could break that off, and that was what was holding the window up to the underside of Narcissus. In fact, on the top, there's the screw hole that held it up.
Because these are all flathead, because 1912, when this was built, they're all flathead screws.
Yep.
No Phillips heads.
Big, old, rusty.
And they're not stainless steel. They weren't brass. Steel. They were just steel screws, right?
They looked just like that.
Wow.
And some of them come out.
Yeah.
And some of them don't.
And the heads.
The heads are slots.
Yeah.
And slots are terrible because often the head of the screw just breaks off when you try to turn it, or the screwdriver comes up out of the slot and wrecks the slot.
And so the head was actually, is the proper word countersunk or sunk into?
Yeah, the head was just slightly countersunk in there so the window frame would clear it.
Yeah.
But the best way we could find, the least damaging to these, was just to drill a hole around it and take it out. I will, before this goes back to the museum, make some dowels out of scrap poplar, and I'll turn on the lathe some dowels that are the size of those holes, and we'll fill those holes right up flush and over, so they'll be full of poplar. Then they can be re-drilled and the screws can go into the same hole or some other hole.
Because we're reusing as many of the original exterior frames as we can.
We are indeed.
Yeah.
And for because we're reusing them, and because the big problem is the broken ends, most of them I can do a repair that looks like this, where I've just finger jointed. This has not been shaped, obviously, just newly been glued on there, but I've finger jointed a piece on the end, and that'll go through the shaper, get all the molding passes, and come out looking like that when it's done. So it'll look effectively like new.
So this has all the different contours.
This has all the different contours that it needs. The groove down the back, the slot around here, this thing on the front, which is a little difficult to achieve. But you know, this is about the best we can do for her, and it's a very permanent, very good repair, because the glue is waterproof underwater, and it has this big glue joint. It'll never fall off of there, and has the grain running the right way. So this will become this once it's been through the shaper 5 or 6 times.
And so you're manufacturing, for the most part, many just these ends.
They all effectively need the ends. We were minus 2 complete frames.
Okay, it must be where the addition, they had like a kitchen addition on the Narcissus there as a camp.
And they pull those off and they're gone.
Yeah.
So for the 2 complete ones, I'm making 2 complete new ones, which you know, is fine. That's what I'm involved with in cutting these pieces off. I'm going to make these guys. It'll be blanks for the new frames.
Nice.
And I'm going to make a couple of extra because things go wrong. You know, things can slip in jigs and get cut wrong. This one has a little crack, but you know, with antique wood, one can't start to worry about that. You know, it doesn't go deep in. It's going to be full of paint. It's not an issue.
Yeah.
Can't improve on it.
Yeah, it's not going to be